It's time. It's the final ATM podcast of 2023. It's episode 65. Mark Watson, who calls sport all around the world. Class commentator, done Olympic Games, World Cups, World Championships, you name it. My name is Martin Devlin. I work for the platform, and we do this podcast, Apologise to Me, every single Tuesday. Talking today about Vincent. Should we be celebrating a drawn test series with Bangladesh? What the hell is wrong with the Breakers? Mitch Johnson loses his commentary contract over the Warner comments. Ram goes to Live Golf. Liverpool top. I don't know if we'll get through all of these. Rugby League in the UK lowering its tackle height.
Apologise to me!
But I want to start with a topic that is dear to both of our hearts. Super Rugby have finally decided that, I quote, "We want to reignite the flame with fans, and we're desperate to make the game fan-centric." There's a Super Rugby board now independent of both the Australian and New Zealand administrations. They're looking to appoint a CEO. And after 10 years of being told by us fans that the product is dull, it is boring, it is going nowhere, seeing crowds drop through the turnstiles, TV ratings fall through the floor, at last they're doing something about it. Is this good news?
Yeah, I think I said last week, Martin, in my opening statement, wouldn't it just be nice if actually New Zealand Rugby or someone came out and actually just admitted the game was in crisis, and finally we've seen it. Look, I've been one that's been saying it for a long time, and you have too, and sometimes we've copped it. No, you don't know what you're talking about, but the reality is it's not the competition it once was. And I mean, I don't think you'd be as concerned if you had a healthy NPC and a healthy club competition, but they've gone by, haven't they? And and as I've said, really what has happened is that we've reduced rugby just to the All Blacks. And you've often heard me say, look, we've moved from being rugby fans to All Black fans. Fan engagement is a big one, isn't it? And they've just never really quite got it in this country. And I think they can talk all they want. I just wonder whether the horse has already bolted. I'm just not sure how you're going to pull it back next year. We've already talked about the number of high-profile All Blacks that are not going to be available. The Australians are not going to be any better. Yes, it's a nice, lovely little token gesture with Moana Pacifica and the Fiji and Drua, but I think Fiji, to be fair, are very tough at home. But, Pacifica, they're going to need to actually, start being competitive. As I've said, I've over the last few years applied for the odd media job within these rugby organisations with a clear vision, I think, of what needs to happen, again, based along the lines of what I see in English Premier League. And then, you don't get a call back, or you don't get even an interview or an opportunity, and then they appoint these people. And, and I know, Martin, it's very, very hard at times to get players on radio shows, to get them to front up. There's always some reason why they can't. It's all just a little bit too tough, yet no one's turning up. The other thing that needs to happen is, New Zealand Rugby need to let Sky Television off the leash and their broadcasting partners, and actually allowed to criticise the game, critique the game, have the hard discussions, talk about the administration, get people animated, get people talking about what they saw last night around the water cooler, and just get rugby back at the forefront of people's minds.
Totally
And go back to the days of the debates of Laurie Mains versus John Hart, and try and get this tribalism going between the village of the damned, as your good mate Miles Davis calls it, Christchurch, up against Auckland, and just try and find a way of getting that tribalism back. But I just wonder, mate, if it's too late. I just wonder whether we've just got into new habits, Martin, and apathy has got to the point where really, I just don't know if there is a way back here.
Look, it's got to achieve it organically like the Warriors did. There's got to be an up the wires kind of movement. And if you leave it to New Zealand Rugby after you see what they've done with NZR Plus, exciting new technologies, creative new opportunities, and marketing energy, it's all just PR schmuck. And if that's what they think is fan engagement, well, it's actually not, because it's just a pile of cheese with mozzarella on top and then more parmesan. If they want to promote this game like it's a women's weekly cover, then nothing is going to change. Look, they're looking for a CEO at the moment, Mark, and what I fear is just in all of their wokeness and liberalism and KPI box ticking, that it's going to be a man with boobs and a penis, and they are going to do that. And I'm being facetious, but it is going to be, are they going to appoint even the right person for that job with the right qualifications? Who is the best person for the job? Or are they going to go super woke again and actually tick another rainbow box? And so unless they can get their heads out of their backside and actually recognise that, hey, this is the kind of discussion that sports fans have. I hate my Manchester United at the moment. I hate my Redskins at the moment. I should be allowed to hate them as much as I love them. They have to accept that this is what they're going to hear a lot of stuff. They're going to see a lot of stuff that will make them feel uncomfortable because it's not cheesy promotion of their sport. But what it actually is promotion of their sport. And if they can understand that, the most basic concept, then I have some faith. But I don't actually believe that they will. All I believe is that you'll get a lot of lip service, you'll get a lot of PR statements, you'll get a lot more of what we've already come to see, which is just simply that, hey, here's a PR opportunity for the Blues. Jump on board a bus as we go and hand out Christmas presents. That's not in fan engagement or being fan-centric.
No, it's not. And as I said, it's just a PowerPoint presentation, isn't it? It looks good, and they'll get some former marketing guru from some advertising agency who will come in who, probably just has never been to a game, never really understands club rugby. He's got no passion for schoolboy rugby, but will look great, wonderful CV, interview well, take the big salary, and, and then along with Sky, put out some numbers to somehow justify that, in fact, things are working. The engagement curve is on the way up.
Yeah, exactly.
And the spin that goes on. But look, you go back to the English Premier League, you talk about your disgust, but yet your love for Manchester United at the moment. Look, I see, Pep Guardiola came out and had a crack at the Sky pundits and talked about Jamie Carragher. Well, he never won a Premier League title, and Jamie Carragher hit straight back and said, well, I would have if our club had 115 financial infringements and were basically backed by an entire country. Now, it's a big story, but isn't that great? Isn't that just a high level of engagement?
Yep.
Then at the same time, you've got Mo Salah scoring his 200th goal for Liverpool, so you're celebrating a milestone of a great player. And I'm only talking through Liverpool eyes. And then you've got, you've got the injury crisis, you've got the transfer window, you're celebrating some wonderful football, you're celebrating the fact that Bournemouth did beat Manchester United 3-0. Who would have ever have thought? And my point is, again, look at the level of engagement, look at the discussion going on, the negative, the bad. This is where rugby needs to get to. But can you honestly see it happening, mate? We'll get the same cliched coaches next year. Oh, we've got
players
respect
won't
for the
turn
opposition.
up because it's their day off.
Just
it's
crap,
just,
mate.
Apologise to me!
Rugby league in the UK are about to do what the Neanderthal game down here just can't seem to accept. And that is that if you continue to play and encourage your players to play the game like it is at the moment, where there are there's no swinging arms, there's no shoulder now, but the head-high hits in league is sickening, and you'd never get them in rugby. Guys like Jared Waerea-Hargreaves would have been hunted out of the game years ago. Yet this season alone, he charges full tit into a guy's face with an elbow, cops about a 4 or 5 week ban when it should have been probably a year. I'm not so sure that this sport can cope with the idea that it has to fundamentally change the way that it's played. We love the big hits in league. We love all of that. But dropping it from the top of the shoulder to the armpit isn't going to actually do stuff all really to make a key difference. And if this lawsuit does go ahead in the UK, Mark, see, the big problem that rugby has had when 350 players backed by law firms that are doing it pro bono because these guys want the glory, the lawyers themselves. This is $1 billion payout or £1 billion payout. The NFL have been covering it up for years where they hush money to players, past players with dementia and mental health problems and things to try and shut them up. This is where league is sitting at the moment. And unless they fully recognise this, then I don't believe you're going to have a game like we see at the moment in the next 20 years. It can't go on. It just can't, the way that it is at the moment. So whether or not we actually see this law enforced in both hemispheres, I don't know. But without it, I don't think we do have the sport that we love watching.
No, look, I think I've said this before. I was doing some stuff around Mount Abbott Grammar School and talking to former old boy and a man who helped establish the Warriors, and John Ackland, one of the great coaches. And I was asking him how the game is going, and he was talking about St. Peter's College in Auckland, where he's working now. And he said, look, we just don't have the kids coming through at rugby or rugby league now. But if we build 80 basketball courts, we'd fill them all. And one of the big issues is the concussion issue. Parents are waking up now. They don't want little Johnny going out there and getting the shit kicked out of him. Don't want him getting the head knocks at a young age. And so, we're not having the grassroots. It's not there. The depth is not there. We're seeing the same thing in rugby, and this is just what's going to happen more and more in rugby league. Now, one of the best things I've heard in regards to trying to address it and start kids at a young age getting the habit of going low is actually, whether it be, again, and I mean it in the, maybe putting a bright coloured stripe at the base of every league jersey, and that is your target point. So, almost like a boxer's belt.
Yeah.
You've basically got a tackle from below down. So it's just a visual on every jersey. Could be a fluorescent stripe, could be a rainbow stripe, whatever. But it gives kids a target point. but we do, as much as I want it to be the man's game, as much as I do want to see the big hits go in, and I know, mums at home do not want their kids picking up serious head knocks. And there are a lot more sports now that are highly engaging that don't have that as a byproduct, concussion as a byproduct of it. And these sports are now in our living rooms every day. Sport is defined more than just 4 or 5 sports. When we were growing up, it was league, rugby, netball, cricket.
That's it.
Maybe one other in there. That's not the case now. And so unless these sports start taking it seriously, and I already think it's happened, they will see the damage being done when there's just simply not the depth of players coming through. But also, too, I think older players who are now suffering from head knocks and suffering with dementia are actually going, hey, hang on a minute, your belief system in your 20s and 30s, guys, is going to change considerably when you're in the 50s and 60s. And when I look back, some of the dumb things I did on the rugby field, I'm paying for it now. I wish I hadn't have done it. I wish I had been smarter, because now I've got the rest of my life to live, and yet I've got some brain disease, or I'm suffering from dementia, or I can no longer, I've no longer got the cognitive ability that I thought I would have in later life. So all these stories are slowly starting to be told, but rugby league, when it comes to its shop window, needs to address it, needs to deal with the perception.
Apologise to me!
Mark Watson is with us. We're talking Lou Vincent. I have had many comments over the last couple of days. How can you be so harsh on David Warner when Lou Vincent did that? Can you compare those two things? No, I don't think you can. Look, Lou Vincent, what he did, we all know was reprehensible, but after doing 10 years or whatever it is with 11 live bans, to be allowed back into a club cricket or just to go and watch a game of cricket, he is repentant, and I believe he has done his time. The thing with David Warner is that, look, I mean, I don't necessarily, think that he should wear what he did for the rest of his life either, but he only got a year's ban for absolutely bringing the game into disrepute like he did, and I don't think that he even served a year. He was playing other cricket, wasn't he? He was allowed to actually still get his bat and earn cash and all of that kind of thing. It's not a comparable thing. So let's concentrate on Lou Vincent. Are you happy that this has actually been taken away finally?
Yeah, look, I am. Lou Vincent did some dumb stuff. I think he was incredibly impressionable. He did it at a second tier of cricket, but still did it for financial gain, and did put which was an illegal in itself, form of basically insider trading, if you want to put it that way. But he went up, he fronted up, he admitted that he did it, and so he actually stood up and said, yes, I did this. And boy, they slapped him with a life ban. And cricket is his life. Now, I think it was John Bracewell that said, look, they let murderers out of jail eventually. And you can say, well, okay, Lou Vincent's got the freedoms of driving his car and he's not locked up. But if cricket is your life, well, in a funny kind of way, if you have it taken away from you, your entire sense of self-worth and everything that has defined you, well, it is a life sentence, isn't it? On a much greater scale than people think. He's also pretty fragile with his mental health. I would imagine that, there's probably been thoughts of suicide and stuff over the years and all the rest of it. What he did is not worth this guy ending up taking his life or living in absolute misery. And so I'm thrilled that he has been allowed back into the game. I think he does have a lot to offer. And I think he'll be very, very good at any level. And I think he'll come in really positive. I think he's got a message to sell. But look, I do want to touch on the David Warner stuff. I don't care what anyone says. Sandpaper Gate, in my opinion, mate, it is a form of match fixing. You are putting the odds heavily in your favour. You are. Okay, it's not quite as definitive, but it is. And this is not the first time they did it. It's just the first time they got caught.
That's right.
Now, as you said, they have less than a year out of the game. They're back winning World Cups. They're back making millions of dollars. Ask me, what did more damage to the game of cricket? Lou Vincent or the publicity around Sandpaper Gate? I'll argue Sandpaper Gate. But also, let's not kid ourselves, mate. This match-fixing stuff's still going on in the subcontinent. I mean, I look at the whole IPL, mate. Now, I'm not saying that match-fixing or spot-fixing's going on necessarily in that, but there's some form of money laundering going on. There's, some sort of business in the background that's having to pay for this, where it's just shifting money from one side to the next. And so, the Lou Vincent scenario reminds me of professional road cycling, where they just go after the guy in the peloton, bust him for using drugs because they just want to show that they are serious about testing for drugs, but they're not really, because the guys that are really on the drugs, the guys that are really abusing it, are the guys who are actually winning. But there's such big names, there's no way they can afford them to come down, because they can't, have that level of scandal within the sport.
It's like the IOC, isn't it? The toothless, spineless bunch. And I've campaigned for years. I've said for years that, Watto, what a friggin' joke you are. So here's the IOC, who have now said that the Russian and Belarusian athletes can compete at the Olympics. They just can't wear the tracksuit. I mean, you sit there and you just think, how can you people even be taken seriously? How can anything you say be taken seriously? We've all been to, you and me have been to Olympic Games. We all know who the drug cheats were, mate. We saw them, and we've seen it covered up time and time again. I'm convinced that Gatland in 2004, when he won the 100, was on the juice, and that was covered up as well, and they don't want to be embarrassed by having the people holding the world records and the superstars getting busted for drugs, because at that stage, the whole competition, the whole Olympics is dead. If and there's one or two names out there we all know, but you sit there and you just think, what is the point of these organisations, Mark? If you cannot ban Russia after stateside, state-sponsored doping of their athletes, well, then why bother at all?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what, if it was Fiji would be banned in a heartbeat, wouldn't they? No problem at all. They'll go and jump up and down about a whole lot of other things. But look, it's a bit like the Colombian drug lords, isn't it? They've seen some sort of dude through customs carrying 3 kilograms of cocaine, make sure that he gets busted, make sure all the news outlets are there. Customs doing a great job to shut the drugs down. Meanwhile, the custom officers clearly know that 10 million tonnes is being shipped offshore in a boat, and they just turn a blind eye because they're all getting paid. It's all in their best interests. But hey, look at us, we caught the guy taking 3 kilograms through. And that's what it all is. It's just a big cover up. It's all just a great conspiracy. And I go back to it. It's just complete and utter moral corruption, Mark.
Apologise to me!
Couple of quick topics before we go. John Rahm goes to Live Golf. I can't figure this out. I just don't understand why the hell that they've spent that money, considering that I thought that the two tours were coming together. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, that, the Saudis can do whatever they want. They can go to whoever they want in the world, whatever athlete it is, whatever team, whatever sport it is, and they can own it with the click of their fingers. That is the way of the world, man. You can't fight the tide.
No, you can't. The only way it'll stop is if oil dries up and suddenly the economy over there starts to fail a little bit and the people start asking some serious questions. But look, that is now just the new reality of sport, isn't it? And it's Saudi Arabia who's next. I think previously it might have been China. Call it whatever you want. But yeah, money talks, man. And there's not going to be too many athletes in the world that are going to turn that sort of money down. You can all stand there and pretend you would. But look, as long as that's going to be the changing landscape, it will find a new direction. It will come together. There will be, at some point, a new normal. I think the key thing is, as long as the top players are all playing the major golfing championships, I think the sport will survive, because I don't know about you, Martin. I mean, I enjoy following my golf. Yes, it's nice when Lydia Ko does well. It's nice when, Ryan Fox does well. But really, for me, golf is around the 4 majors every year. As long as the best players are playing that and there's a bit of drama on the back nine on the final day, mate, you've got me. And you'll always have me.
Let's finish on the football then, because we talked about that at the start. There's no point talking about my miserable lot. But go the Villa, who are in 3rd spot at the moment. I don't know whether they can do a Leicester City in 2015 and 16. But this is the beauty of sport. This is what we want, isn't it? Because your Man City, your Saudi sovereign funds and your Qataris who own everything, it's just going to turn into one Bayern Munich, Barcelona. There will be a European Super League, including a couple of Saudi teams in the next 10 years. That's a given, mate. But at the moment, while the Premier League is still what it is, and a team like Aston Villa can eke its way through and be in 3rd spot almost halfway through the season, well, you're celebrating your teams at the top, but I'm actually just celebrating the fact that there is still interest in this competition, and these weird results or weird happenstances. It's almost like an FA Cup run for a team like that. I'm not being patronising, but that's actually what the joy of this comp is.
Oh, absolutely. And every year is there at one team that does go on that run, that whether that run is to make the top 4, whether that run ultimately determines which of those, I guess, teams that started the season as favourites end up winning it or not. Look, I see Liverpool winning, and we're top of the table, but we're winning ugly, mate. We're not playing good football. We're scraping by. We were lucky to get past Sheffield United. We were lucky, and we come up against Crystal Palace, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm nervous because it's no guarantee. People go, you got Crystal Palace. I'm like, yeah, but we were lucky to win that one. Next week we've got Manchester United. Now Manchester United, on form, Liverpool should win that. But it's Manchester United, Liverpool. It's arguably, along
7-0
with
last
Clasico,
year, mate. I wouldn't be too worried if I was you. Good God.
No, but it is the biggest game in the world. El Clasico as well. Barcelona, Real Madrid. You are going to have Manchester United, who know last time the two teams played, we won 7-0. You've got a pressure manager under huge pressure. You're playing at Anfield, Liverpool. But there is just so much. There's so much to look forward to, isn't there? It's just so damn exciting. And it is just such a wonderful league. When it's all said and done, you can argue that, still the teams that we said would probably win it, one of them did ultimately end up winning it. But, you've got places for the top four. You've got the relegation zone. You've got the fact that you want to play. There's two other tiers of Europe now. And by the time the season gets to the last 4 or 5 games, I'd argue there's one game every round which doesn't have anything weighing on it for the fans or weighing on it for a particular club. And, that's why it's exciting, Martin. And, I've seen Liverpool, 2 years ago, playing games where they had 76% of the possession and lost 1-0. And then you compare that to Super Rugby. I mean, we're going to sit down. How often are the TAB on the win-loss, the New Zealand sides against the Australian sides are going to be paying like $1.10 or $1.05 for the win, and the interest is going to be on the first try scorer or the margin of difference, because it's just going to be so damn predictable.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for everything that you've done for us this year. It's been brilliant, mate. We won't talk again until earlier in the new year. Be safe, be happy, be Santa.
I will be Santa, Martin. I will be Santa. And Merry Christmas to you and your listeners, to everybody on the platform. Great initiative. And again, spread the word, and let's encourage freedom of speech and the ability to just have an honest conversation.
Devlin.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The platform.